So speed. So the first one is speed, which is the value. It defines how far a model can travel basically in inches, because everything in this is measured in rather than board tiles. Then it is CC/defense. So basically, a model CC value is like the hunt begins. You have to roll under that to hit. Now, a defense value is essentially the value that you negate a model CC by. So if someone has CC like 13/2, and you're attacking it, you reduce your close combat value by 2 because that's their defense. So you have to. So range skill is similar as it is in the Hunt Begins. It's just the hit roll. Strength is just performing like strength tests. It's the strength of a melee attack, a standard melee attack. If you don't a melee weapon, attacking with a melee weapon, that you add that to the weapon strength. The Constitution is a model's resilience. So certain factions, such as poison or gas or falling from height, are used when Constitution tests. So if you fall off a building, you have to take a Constitution test. If you're a Marine, you're probably screwed at that. Because you're probably about to die.
Most likely.
Yeah.
And the following stats are WP, which is for willpower, so it's used when performing a willpower test. You then got leadership, which is quite self-explanatory. It's like with it. So if you have to take a morale test because your squad's just had a load of aliens butcher it, or you've got to charge something that causes fear, like any alien, unpinning tests or rally tests, this is your value to work from. Wounds, how many wounds a model has. Majority of models have 1 until you get to characters and predators or anything bigger than basically sort of like the standard human or alien. Armor, that is the baseline save throw you have to make, which is obviously modified by your attacker's strength and anything else on top. Usually models will have just a flat number, but if anything has a bracket, it's like the Hunt Begins. You've got your impenetrable armor, so if the value would be reduced under this, it can't go any lower. That is what you'll roll it on. So the next one is size. This determines how tall you are relative to the board, because obviously people like to model the things. If they are the more along the lines of the first edition, unicast are a little bit more set. This gives you a standardized height, which every model in the game has this, and every bit of terrain has this. So like a size 0 is the smallest, and I think it goes as high as something like 6 or more for the really big vehicles. So a size 1 can see over a size 0, but it can't see over a size 2. Let's see through a size 2 against a size 0, that sort of thing.
Yeah. The other value of size is that the size value also is a modifier to your hit roll. So the bigger something is, easier it is to hit the damage.
Yes, and there's also a rule, I believe, that if you are a certain size, I believe it's double from what's in combat with you, you're not effectively locked in combat with it. You can just walk off.
Yeah, if you're a little human, you're not going to keep a queen in combat. You're going to just walk over you and just go kill someone else.
And then the last value is very self-explanatory, points. How much per model to put in your list?
And then the weapons have R, which is the range, ST, which is their strength. So range is, is how far in inches that weapon can shoot. For close combat weapon, this is referred to as the close combat weapon range. So instead of R, it's CCWR. Then the strength. So for ranged weapons, this is a modifier to attribute it to the target's armor. So example, for most attacks, but some weapons have poison or gas, which affect the constitution value instead. For close combat weapons, the weapon is instead added to the attacking model's strength, and the resulting value is the modifier to the attribute of the target. Yeah. And then we have
rate of attack. This is the number of dice you throw. Most things are around 1 to 3 at most. There are possibly a few exceptions for certain weapon special rules. That, like you saw earlier with the aliens, they have 2 dice, then they get an extra 1, and then a possible 1 on top of that. So you get effectively 4 dice from an alien across 2 sets of weapons. And then the type. So this is the thing it will fall into with a category. So this will tell you are there any special rules that you need to do with this weapon? What does it affect? So, like said, if it's a psi weapon, it usually they have a lower strength, but they don't go for the roll off the armor to save. They roll off a different stat. Whereas, excuse me, you've got things like grenades, so that you'll use templates to hit with those, or flamethrowers, depending on which type it is. And shotguns is another one for range. Most close combat weapons are just close combat, but there are a couple of things that add to it with what they can do, what they roll off, like with the poison.
Yeah, there's also rail weapons, which is there's sort of the weapon classifications like rail, which is like if a range success is successful, draw an imaginary line from the model, making the range attack towards each target, extending out to the maximum weapon range. So something's got the rail special will always fire its maximum distance, hitting the target chosen based from the target you've chosen first, and anything in between. There's also, as I said, there's handguns, which can be used as both a ranged and a close combat weapon.
Yeah, so something like a pistol along that lines.
Yeah. Just realised that's why Marines don't have a knife. They use their pistol in close combat.
Have you ever played? Was it Aliens Colonial Marines? That was one way it dealt with it in close combat. You just punched it with a rifle butt, or you just shot it through the mouth. Point blank range. Always intelligent to do that with an alien.
Oh yeah, and then scope. The certain weapons have a rule called scoped, which is when performing a battle focus action, which is basically battle focus is an action that gives you +2 to hit when you use it. When you use it, you've gone past. It's page 20, I believe.
Oop.
The scope
Keep
is
using
basically
the real
weapon plus. We use battle focus to get range +6, rate of fire 1, and slow to reload. So any modifiers due to cover are ignored. So essentially, scope weapons are like your sniper rifles and stuff.
Here we go.
Yeah, those are so there's weapon abilities, which I'll let Jonathan read those ones.
So you've got all of these ones sort of listed here. So armor piercing is on a lot of weapons in the game, but they work only when you're going against vehicles and structures, not normal infantry. Concussive, which it usually is things that like the tails of xenomorphs or some of the more powerful weapons of predators. You might be able to stun your opponent, so sometimes it might be worth using this on a model which you might be in range of, but it might not be in range of you to attack, like predators on xenomorphs.
You may know X next to some of those abilities. The X usually is whatever the modifier is. For example, for concussive, that's the maximum size of model concussive ability can affect.
Yes.
So, for example, warriors have concussive, means they can affect up to basically a predator size model.
Yep. Critical force. If you cause a successful wound for this, it does that many number of wounds rather than the usual one. And all saves that you would have are taken separately for each one. Deadly. So heal rolls can't be used against this weapon. So usually Marines will have a med kit. It's quite good against them. Exploit. So any successful save must be re-rolled. Headshot, which I believe is only with pistols and sniper rifles.
Yeah.
Basically, they gain, as it says, critical force 2 if you roll a 1 to hit. Gas. So this is an example of a weapon that doesn't wound in the normal sense. So instead of taking an armor test, you take a cons test, modified in the usual way. Mortar. Very self-explanatory. You don't need line of sight, but if you fumble, it's going to scatter. So be a bit careful when targeting it a bit danger close to your own unit. It's just in case it falls back on you, and you can't use it inside a structure with an intact ceiling because mortars go vertically, not horizontally.
The other thing about mortars is that they always scatter. basically. But they you have to see if you basically when you're seeing to hit, you're seeing if you actually use the weapon rather than don't load it properly.
Mm. And then pinning, which is if you kill a model from that weapon, the squad must take a pinning test. This can help keep an enemy from moving or doing other actions against you. Poison, just like with gas, you do save against it with a contest. Precision, this is a modifier to the weapon's strength against non-vehicles, so like sniper rifles, really good at taking out high-value targets. Short-range burst, if basically like rapid fire, if you've ever played 40k, if you're in half range, or in this case 12, you gain an extra dice to your shots. Slow to reload, you can't increase the rate of fire of this weapon or rate of attack, so you're just stuck with the baseline. Smoke, very self-explanatory there. It offers you a basically cover modifier, but it's not cumulative. But you place the smoke where it hits. Strafe, I believe this is only used on the Cheyenne and the Predator dropship, is it? Where they can,
yes,
where they are basically they can shoot over a lot of different targets with all the weapons. Sweep basically lets you hit each model within your range of attack once per rate of attack. So it's very good on crowd control type weapons like the glaive from the Predators, to just wade in and try and kill a load of things in a unit all in one go. Turret, so it's got front and rear facing shots and attacks with a weapon, has a line of sight all around, so it's like the Hurricane of Destruction rule for Predators. It lets you shoot in a 360 arc. And weapon mode, you can fire it in two different methods, so you've got to choose which one when you're making the allocation.
Yeah. And so equipment, there is the gas mask, which is you can reroll unsuccessful constitution tests of weapons with a gas ability. Kind of self-explanatory. There is the grappling hook, which basically means that when you're, if you're, say, example, aliens all get grappling hook 8, which means that whenever they move, they can ignore 8 inches up or down whenever they make a move test. They also don't need to make a constitution test while climbing. So when you're climbing a terrain that doesn't have a ladder, you have to make a constitution test to climb it, which if you fail, you take damage. You don't climb. But aliens and stuff with grappling hooks ignore this. The other one is traps. So traps have like three little attributes, which is the X is the amount of times the trap amount of traps you can place per squad. Y is the tripping range, which means that if the enemy moves within that range in inches, it triggers. And then Z is the hit strength, which means the tripping model receives a hit with this strength. The trap, if the trap owning player rolls a 1 to.
Yeah.
So basically, traps. When you trap trigger, you roll a 1 to 15, it activates and is then removed from play. But
As
if
far
you
as
roll 16 to 20, nothing happens and doesn't trigger basically that turn.
I believe the only two traps in the game are the eggs for the aliens, and I believe the Predators have got access to some as well. I don't know if the Marines have one. Are you aware of any?
I don't think so. I don't think they do.
Yeah, so
And there are various abilities as well. So, for example, you've got the bodyguard ability, which hits can be transferred to this model by using the guarded rule, even if they are inflicted by a close combat attack. So normally, you've got like a guarded rule. Basically, you can offload a weapon shot at one of your units, at one of your characters to a nearby unit, basically.
So I think like the Royal Guard for the Queen sort of thing.
But bodyguard allows you to transfer hits that are inflicted by close combat attacks as well, or made by a weapon with a sniper special. There's a sniper special with a model with a sniper, because snipers basically are, you can't use guarded and stuff to offload. They just hit the target they chose, unless the bodyguard unit has bodyguard as well. There's also boost X or Y, which is basically you have a resource cost for it. which is the X, and then gain speed Y. So, example, I don't know what units have that. But, like example, you can spend, say, someone's got resources X speed +2, so you spend one resource card on that model, it gains 2 additional speed that turn. There's also brutal. So when this model, so basically it's the pinning for combat, essentially. So if you kill a model, the squad has to take a pinning. Camouflage. If an enemy model receives a cover modifier when making a ranged attack at this model, the cover modifier is increased by X. So if it's, say, 6, you've got to reduce your range skill by 6 on top of the cover modifier. There's cannon fodder. Basically, you can friendly models to target the model with CC and range skill attacks, and use template attacks where this model hit by the template before scattering. All friendly fire rules still apply, though.
To answer your question, the one model I was able to find with the boost rule is the monstrosity for aliens. Weirdly, the hunting bites, the Cayenne dropship, the APC. No, they don't have it, but a big angry alien does.
The big angry monster. Okay. There's also contempt, which this model may reroll pinning, breaking, fear test if the model is caused by a model of the type X. So basically, they don't like certain unit types. There's also crack shot, which is when this model falls with battle focus, it gains an additional range skill +X for that roll. There's dissension. All enemy models within 12 of one of the models' ability receive a leadership -X. The effect's not cumulative, so you use the highest dissension value for models in range of one or more models with that ability. There's then disposable. So a squad whose commander or acting squad commander has the ability to always passes break test, basically. Essentially, it's like your prisoners. They're disposable, so no one cares if they die. There's also dodge, which is a saving roll. So every time you take a hit, if you have dodge, say like in The Hunt Begins, like if stalkers have dodge 1 to 5, dodge 5 in this. So basically, you roll to hit. If you roll a hit against the stalker, they roll a dice, and on 1 to 5, they dodge the shot and don't have to take a save. If anything higher, they have to take a save, basically. A save for it. As normal. That one's easy. Duelist is just once per turn. You can reroll a single failed close combat test. Durable, it means the model ignores the effects of critical force. So it means that if someone's got critical force, that model's just not bothered. There's then Eagle Eye, which is you ignore negative modifiers to shoot range skill up to amount of X. All of its rate of fire, it performs the battle focus action prior to shooting. So all Marines basically to perform battle focus, they ignore ranged modifiers. I think it's like 2 or something. Hello?
Just have a quick check.
Then there's Enhanced Unblinking Eye. This model may ignore any effects that reduce its ranged weapon's range. Additionally, they may reroll 1 successful range skill test once per turn, except if the roll is a fumble. So unless they roll a 20, basically.
Eagle Eye 2 for a captain.
There's also Espionage. Eagle Eye is like a standard, because they all get it.
Yeah, I'm just checking.
There's also Espionage, which means once per turn, a model can use AP1 to perform an espionage action. Select the opposing player. Then this model must pass a leadership test. If successful, the selected player must announce which squad they will act. So basically, it's a way of forcing your opponent to suddenly think, this guy's next, and they have to activate that unit next, essentially. So you can get your opponent to reveal what they're doing. There's Execution, which I think only prisoners have. The model can spend an action point to remove another friendly model within 6 from the game. If that model belongs to a squad that is currently broken or pinned, the squad immediately covers. There's Fear and Fearless, which cancel each other out. So Fear basically means you have to take a test where make a leadership test -X of the ability in close combat if you wish to the model that has Fear, basically. Now, if you've got Fearless, you add +X when testing against models with the fear ability. If the value of Fearless ability is at least equal to the Fear ability, so you're equal or over, so say that an enemy's got Fear 1 and you've got Fearless 2, you just pass the test automatically. So ferocity X, which is the ability of warriors and most aliens, they add strength plus X in the turn where they perform a charge action. Do you want to read the next ability page?
Yeah. So follow up. I believe there's only one model with this innate, which is the Predator Battlemaster, but I think there is ways for getting it in the aliens. So if you ended activation where it's performed a close combat attack and no longer engaged, it can move up to 3 inches towards the nearest enemy model, ignoring movement allowance for this turn. So it really helps you keeping moving up the board. Particularly if you're a close combat based model. Frenzy. So when you charge, you get an extra rate of attack to each of its close combat weapons. Really good on models with multiple attack weapons that it can use at the same time, like aliens.
Stalkers have that ability. It's horrifying because they're just charging for it, and then they've got 2 attacks with their tail and 2 attacks with their claws. So they just need to go stab.
Yeah, and I believe you can also get frenzy on other units within the aliens if you upgrade them, which makes it scary.
Is the squad frenzy called? Because I'm just going through a second. I apologise for they don't have any flashing images for this, but aliens have an upgrade. I think it's bloodthirsty, or is that ferocity? Yeah. I can't read it at the minute because there's another game follow. Thing.
Anyway, so guardsmen, I believe all Marines.
You put them in a squad with a Praetorian. He has an ability that gives the squads frenzy.
That'll be it. So guardsmen
to frenzy.
So guardsmen, the model that has this can go on sentry for 1 action point. All Marines have this rule as a standard because of the Stay Frosty army rule.
Yep.
Gunslinger, the model can select secondary targets within 5 inches of the primary target when performing shooting attacks rather than the usual 3. Hard to hit, so you get an additional negative modifier to hit that model with a ranged attack. Heal X, like with dodge, this is a saving throw before your armor or constitution roll, but this one can be ignored by power shot, and it can never be higher than an 8 regardless of multipliers, and it's only on non-vehicles.
Yeah, it is also done after your saving throw.
Oh, is it after?
Yeah, because dodge is before, after, which is really annoying when a model has both dodge
and hidden agenda. So this model cannot interact with objectives or control or contest table zones, and they cannot be joined by other models unless it's the same squad type. Hurricane of Destruction, it means that you can fight to your front and rear arcs. Initiative X, so you can, if you have a unit with this, you can add that to the roll to see who goes first each turn. And if you have multiple squads, you pick the highest modifier. I believe aliens can get this as an upgrade, but I'm not too sure of other units that have it off the top of my head.
I remember correctly, Predators. I think Predators get it for one of their clans.
Yeah, that might be one of them they have.
The Queen has initiative 1.
Oh, that's useful.
The Hive Mother has initiative 1 as well.
All right.
The aliens can get an additional bonus upgrade that gives them, I think, initiative 2.
Leader, X and Y. So if it's your commander, you can take X number of a squad, what that is as troops. So like if you take the elite clan of the Predators kind of thing, you can take them as troops, sort of mechanic. So it allows you to take troops that normally support as troop choices instead. So you can build a force around a certain theme, or you can try and maximize the number of this more elite unit you can have.
Wayu Commando has the 2 Weyland-Yutani Commandos because they're normally a support unit.
Yes.
So if you take away your commander as your army commander, then you get these guys as a troop unit rather than the Weyland-Yutani Commandos as a troop instead of a.
Yes. It helps you take more of a themed force, I think, with that sort of rule.
Yeah.
Leap. So you can move this model without any negative movement modifiers within X inches. So it counts as a walk action and cannot be used to pass impassable terrain higher than X minus times divided by 2, so within a minimum of 2 inches. This rule is really good if you are suffering from terrain to just suddenly move up the board. Face huggers, I know, have this, and so it lets you really get through that.
4 minimum.
Yeah, so it just really helps you if you're in a position where you can't move for whatever reason. Doesn't matter. Keep going. Medic. So any friendly model within 5 gets the heal ability, with X being the roll that you are looking to get. Paired weapons X. So this is very sort of linked to the weapons the model has. So like Predators can have it with the wrist blades and some of the other weapons. Aliens have it, I believe, on every single unit as standard with all of its weapons in close combat.
Paired weapons close combat, so they can always use all their close combat weapons together.
And
which is very good because they usually have 2.
Yeah, and certain units like the power loader, its name escaped me for a second then, that can swing both of its loader claws in combat. So it lets you get more dice out with certain things in one combat phase or shooting phase potentially. Predator senses, so you don't need line of sight to make a charge action. So like if you've watched our little sort of quick intro game, you will have seen that we had to double check whether my tracker could see at one point to spot the alien's stalk token. Similar thing. If that was revealed, but I was around the corner, so I couldn't see beforehand, doesn't matter. Just charge straight around the corner.
All aliens get that base.
Yeah.
Kind of scary because it just means they just charge around the corner.
Yeah, and to be fair, considering what they did in all the films, it would be understandable they have that rule. So the next rule is Ranger. So this is really good, particularly if you've got a fast-moving model. You can ignore all movement penalties in difficult terrain. It really opens up the board to you for where you're going. Regeneration. Now, this is a really interesting rule. I'm only aware of Naturally, which is the monstrosity.
It's horrifying.
Yeah, so at the start of its activation, if you roll equal or lower than the X value of its regen, it regains a wound. And in the case of vehicles, you can pick where it goes. So this is a really good rule for just keeping some tanky model keep going and going. I know aliens have got an upgrade to either give them the rule or
2 points per model in a normal squad. The model gains regenerate 5 for 10 points for a character. Gains regenerate. Has regenerated gains.
Yeah, and I believe if you've already got the rule, it buffs it. So
yeah,
it's really good. I mean, yes, it's not likely to go off, but it just helps keep that big, expensive model ticking, and especially if you take it on your commander, it can just keep them in the fight just a little bit longer, particularly in a mission where your commander can basically win or lose you the game if they get killed.
Like old grudges.
Yep. Relentless, so you ignore stun, really self-explanatory. Repair X, so a bit like dodge or heal. It's a saving throw. Every time you take a wound on a vehicle, you can try and stop it. Simple. Sniper, so when performing a battle focus action, the target of the whole shooting action may not be guarded, as mentioned earlier, except if one of the models has bodyguard. So really good to try and take out either a character joined to a squad or the normal squad leader. Stay Frosty. This squad does not suffer the negative leadership results of losing its squad commander. Marines and Predators have access to this. Really helpful. Particularly
for instead. So
yeah. So it's really helpful if you're got a more of a low leadership squad, so that they don't run off or get frozen up a bit more more reliably. Swarm, you gain +1 strength for every other friendly model with this ability in the close combat with the same enemy model to a maximum of +2. I'm not too sure, other than Facehuggers, if anything else has this rule.
Which one?
I think Facehuggers might be the only unit with it.
Swarm.
Yeah.
No, quite infants and stalkers.
Oh, well, fair enough. So quite useful for low strength models to try and just get that little bit of a buff.
I think it's warriors.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's just infants and stalkers get it. It's to give them a boost because they have got terrible weapons.
Yeah, comparatively. Target identifier, so it receives a leadership +X, depending on the value for the unit, when trying to target spot a stalking squad or performing the target priority test. When you're trying to shoot a unit that's not the closest one. Target sense, you ignore the target priority rule. Unblinking eye, you don't suffer any effects that reduce your weapon's range. And unbreakable, which I believe all aliens have, and a couple of other units. This model always passes pinning and break tests. If broken or pinned, it recovers automatically at the start of the squad activation. So if there is a rule that says the opposing unit is broken or pinned, no test is made, this rule basically negates that.
Yeah. It's primarily because alien, and they also have Fearless 5. Is the highest you get Fearless of Fear. So they all basically cannot be. They'll never have to take a fear test in the whole at all.
Yeah. And I believe that is all of the special rules.
Yeah.